What started as a quiet fishing weekend turned into a neighborhood showdown. When Mark came home to find his shed hijacked by the HOA president for her own Welcome Center, he didn't shout, he didn't argue, he planned. And what followed? A brilliant act of revenge, a barking surprise, and a community finally fighting back. This is the story of how one man and a pack of dogs brought down a suburban tyrant. Mark Davidson had one rule about his weekends: no interruptions. His world was simple fishing trips, his old recliner, and peace. But that peace shattered like glass when he returned home one sunny Sunday afternoon to find his property transformed into something unrecognizable. His shed, the same one he'd built by hand, the same one he'd stocked with tools, paint, and memory, had become a circus. There were folding chairs, a table stacked with store-bought cookies. Red, white, and blue bunting dangled from the roof. And standing at the front like she owned it all was Karen. Karen wasn't just any neighbor. She was the self-declared president of the HOA, a title she wore like a crown. Her voice rang out as she held a clipboard in one hand and gestured grandly with the other. "Welcome, neighbors, to the new HOA Welcome Center," she announced. Mark blinked. A banner hung above the shed's door. Inside were laminated flyers and cheap plastic flags. People gathered, unsure whether to smile or step away. They thought it was sanctioned. They thought Mark had agreed to this. He hadn't. When Mark confronted Karen, she smiled like a politician on a debate stage. "Mark, the HOA voted to use this space for community outreach. This is a neighborhood initiative, a symbol of progress." "This is my shed," he snapped. Karen waved it off. "It's for the greater good." That phrase, it echoed in Mark's ears like a threat. That night, Mark sat at his kitchen table and pulled out a manila envelope. Property records, subdivision maps, and a copy of the original development plan from over a decade ago. He flipped page after page until he found it. The line, a clerical oversight. His shed stood on a piece of land technically never absorbed into HOA jurisdiction. An old zoning error, a loophole. Karen had no legal control over it. Mark smiled. But he didn't fight her in public. Not yet. Instead, he made a call. By the end of the week, the shed looked the same. The banner still hung. Karen was back with more cookies and another speech. Neighbors trickled in, half curious, half confused. Mark watched from his porch. He sipped lemonade, inside the shed, behind the bunting. 8 large German shepherds waited, barking, growling. Mark's cousin, Tyler, a mobile animal shelter volunteer, had helped him bring them in, all legal, all vaccinated, all territorial. When Karen opened the shed to show off her community space, the barking exploded. Children screamed. Adults scattered. A tray of cookies launched into the air. One dog pawed at the door. Snarling, Karen spun around, her face pale. "Mark!" she screamed. He waved from the porch. "Running a dog shelter, all paperwork's in order." Karen went nuclear. She called animal control. The officer arrived, clipboard in hand, and examined the setup. Tyler showed permits. Mark handed over the property line documents. "She's well within her rights," the officer said, looking mildly amused. Karen seethed. "This is sabotage," Mark replied. "No, this is jurisdiction." She stormed off. But the next move she made crossed every line. That night, under cover of darkness, Karen approached the shed. She crouched near the dog's water bowls, a bottle in hand. What she didn't know was that Mark had installed motion-detecting security cameras. He caught her mid-act. "What do you think you're doing?" he asked, stepping into the light. She froze. Vinegar bottle still tipped. "You're poisoning shelter dogs," he asked, voice low and steady. Karen fumbled for words. It's just vinegar. It won't hurt them." "Intent matters." Within minutes, a deputy from the sheriff's department arrived, one who, it turned out, had her own history with Karen's HOA bullying. Mark handed over the footage. Karen's panic only grew. Then came the twist. Mark had also recorded a call with Karen's nephew, an admin in the sheriff's office, who had tried to discourage him from pressing charges. The call hinted at favors, suppression of past complaints, and quiet disposals of paperwork filed against the HOA. Mark submitted everything, and suddenly, Karen's world began to collapse. In the days that followed, neighbors emerged from silence. Bill, fined for planting hydrangeas instead of roses, shared copies of his letters. Sheila, whose daughter's lemonade stand had been dismantled by code enforcement, pulled out her citation. Miguel, who'd been told to repaint his fence 3 times in one summer, finally spoke. Each story painted the same picture: a neighborhood ruled by fear, threats, and power plays. Karen had built her throne out of intimidation. Now it was burning. At the emergency HOA meeting, a county auditor revealed misappropriated funds, inflated invoices, and mysterious charges labeled neighborhood morale initiatives. Karen denied everything until they showed the signatures. Hers. The board voted. Karen was out. Permanently. Her house was listed within a week. Rumor had it, the foreclosure papers were already filed. As moving trucks arrived, no one offered to help. No one waved goodbye. And the shed, it stayed. But now, it was official. Mark filed for nonprofit use status and converted it into a legal satellite shelter. Volunteers helped paint it. A local muralist added a giant paw print above the door. Families donated food, blankets, and toys. The community that had once feared speaking out found new purpose. They began meeting on Mark's lawn, now open and welcoming. No clipboards required, and Mark. He never once raised his voice, never took the stage, never bragged. But everyone knew what he'd done. He didn't just take down Karen. He gave the neighborhood back to the people. And all it took was a shed full of dogs, a little legal knowledge, and the courage to say, no more.